Okay, in terms of saving mothers and children, we also partnered in a global grant in Uganda. That was one of the first vocational training teams with maternal, child, and health. That project is on its third phase with over $100,000 spent, that is teaching midwives in villages with Drexel University to learn and improve birth rates. We've also done quite a bit of global grants with India, particularly with our contact with Golasnani. One of the largest grants that our district ever did ended up being a couple $100,000 that was started in India for women to help them feed their children and give microcredits. It's probably more now, but as of about 2 years ago, we have helped over 10,000 women start businesses. We've also done a couple projects in the Philippines. We provided some maternal health child equipment for a hospital after some big typhoons hit. And although it's not grant related, Rotary has what's called the Rotoplast mission, and our district supports that, where we go into different countries with teams of volunteer doctors, nurses, surgeons, and Rotarians and provide cleft palate surgery. We've also done a lot in supporting education, and we've also started to do a lot in our grants each year trying to do a local project as well. We've provided computers at the Emmaus Library. You of course know from last week we have the global grant with Zambia. We've also done several other things. We provided dictionaries, ESL language and dictionaries to our local high schools. We've sent medical books to Afghanistan. We also provided school bags and desks for the typhoon relief in Philippines. We provided a science lab in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. We also participated in a multi-district grant for computers in Sri Lanka after they had some of their weather. We've assisted a school. We had a global grant in Ecuador with some local teachers. So we have done quite a lot with supporting education. In preventing disease, we have a recent grant where we provided Makunji ambulance with equipment, actually 2 types of equipment, I believe. We've done cataract surgeries in India, hospital equipment, sanitary equipment. We've done also some other non-grant related projects. We provided some mosquito nets in Africa. We've assisted with wheelchairs, supported heart hospitals. We also did, as a result of the group study exchange from the Philippines, we conducted a winter coat drive for Afghanistan prison guards. And locally, a couple of years ago, we found out that we have hungry children in our own school district who didn't have winter coats. Our club is outstanding at gathering things. We have a couple projects going, and we had several thousand coats that we ended up. On the local level and growing economies, we've done quite a bit of local things. Recently, we've refurbished through a grant with a local playground. A few years ago, we jointly with Allentown West and Allentown Club got some new equipment at the 6th Street homeless shelter. We also, a few years ago, we refurbished the kiosks at Emmaus Triangle Park. We assisted with refurbishment of the Makunji Band shelter. We provided a bridge for walking path, it's supposed to say my typing. And Ralph Lewis, who you just heard several years ago, one of our first big local grants, was providing a gazebo and landscaping at Laura Makunji Library. And also, we've recently, Jim Palmquist has become a member of what's called a Rotary Action Group, and there are lots of action groups for any topic that you're interested in terms of promoting peace. And we are participating in a multi-global grant that's going to provide some peace training, which is going to be one of Rotary's best initiatives. So when we say, and you hear this once a year about giving your money, we get this money back. And how we get this money back, what we give today, our district gets back in 3 years, plus interest, plus endowment fund. On average, we just got our endowment fund earnings that get attached to what we're able to give, and we're getting an average of $6,500 to $7,000 on our earnings. So our money has been invested very well. On the local side, we give about 23 to 25 district grants out per year. We're now starting to get more clubs applying for grants than we have money to give, which is a very good. People are beginning to utilize our money. So I want to thank the Emmaus Club because we do a great job, and our giving, if you have never given, it really shows that we can do good projects. To Bill.
Thank you, Jim and Cindy. Any questions at all with respect to the presentation? As you've seen in this presentation, it's just unbelievable how extensive the benefit of our donations to the foundation have been around the world and locally. And I just want to mention one thing that I found really interesting at the district seminar. There was a discussion about this peace and conflict resolution. And one of the attendees in that program was a police officer in Philadelphia. He came back to his job after he went through that program and talked to the head person down there, and they rolled that out through the entire police department. And they are absolutely convinced that many incidents that may have escalated, may have been a problem in Philadelphia, were dampened because the police officers are now able to approach situations with a true understanding of, for example, cultural things and the types of things that an officer might misunderstand, an action, for example, that might be considered threatening when in that culture it's not. And they've given a lot of credit to it. I'm actually going to see if I can try to move that into the Allentown Police Department. But at a local level, even that is being used within the local area. I saw a hand over here somewhere. Yes, Bob?
You might want to tell the newer members of what the Purple Pinky, when they do it, how they get that name. For the
Sorry about that.
Purple Pinky, for how they know which cases have been indoctrinated and which haven't.
Yeah, it's a good point. Bob points out that in these inoculation areas, you can imagine it's a lot of activity. The kids are running all over. Young kids tend to fly all over the place. It's kind of tough to pin them down. What they do is they dip their finger in this purple ink so that if they happen to come back again, they realize they've had it, or if they see a child that doesn't have the purple pinky, they know that child hasn't been inoculated. And one of the things that's kind of interesting, and when you think about it, is why is it going to cost $1.5 billion? The problem is this is like diminishing returns. We're at the end of this asymptotic curve for those that are mathematicians, and as you get to the end of that, the monies escalate significantly to knock out these last few cases that are out there to make sure it's absolutely gone. It has to be totally gone. Even one case in the world could start this thing all over again. So 1.5 billion sounds like an astronomical amount of money, but we are, as the expression goes, this close. Yes, Bob?
When polio is eradicated and there's no more cases, does the virus ever die, or is it always laying there latent and you have to have vigilance and continuing to immunize people?
I can talk about that.
You're gonna say, I couldn't touch that one. It's good thing to
Bill
see.
Gates actually talked in Atlanta, and then there was a couple other outline discussions. Why they need like $1.3 billion more is that even if all polio is eradicated, a polio virus, my mother-in-law had polio. My husband was born with his mother in a wheelchair. It comes in everybody's system. It depends on whether you get affected by it or not. But if one person in the world has polio, within less than 3 months, we can get 10,000 potential cases in the world.
So it never dies.
Because it never really dies, which is why they need all this money to be able to continue. And we saw where UNICEF, the World Health Organization, Bill Gates, and many countries have now contributed more. This year, year to date, as of like a month ago, there were only 17 cases worldwide, and they're in the problem areas. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we're going to have to be vigilant, you know what I mean, for several years.
JP?
It's great to watch all the talk about how they're going to eradicate polio and everything else, and I think that's wonderful. Does the Polio Foundation and the people in polio eradication, they ever talk about the concern, at least that I have, that there seems to be a growing segment, especially in first world countries, that have become anti-vaxxers, that think it's a myth, it's a hoax, it's a thing by big pharma to give your kids autism. Is there any idea to educate around that or anything?
Yeah, actually, it's particularly troublesome in Pakistan, in the high mountain areas. There have actually been Rotarian workers that have had to be escorted because there are truths saying that this isn't happening. The other things that happening, it was always U.S. pharmaceutical companies. Okay, like you said, there are now some pharmaceutical companies in India and other countries that are bringing the cost of that vaccine down to spread that. But you're always going to have that, but it's not going to be.
Well, I know that happens in the third world. I'm talking about here in the United States, you have otherwise educated people
Yeah.
that'll tell you it's.
Haven't heard really that much in the United States, because mostly what I hear is with Rotarians who are like really pro.
I gotta change
with
my
it.
Facebook feed, I guess.
Any, yes?
The biggest challenge to eradicate polio worldwide being Dr. I can tell. In Pakistan and Afghanistan, one of the reason is the religions, people who are very strict with Islamic principles. They say polio is a live virus, which we give oral polio. There's a lot of problem against this thing, and this is one of the reasons that's still pocket. And you are right, if one child is still carrying polio, it can spread. This is a very big challenge, I think. Unless those pockets are not attacked, it can rise, the number can rise.
Thank you.
I'll just mention one thing. I was at the district training as well, and I went to the polio session, and Pakistan, at least, about 3 years ago, their government got on board, and that was the year where the cases worldwide went from over 400 to just over 100. And since then, it's decreased by half each year since then. So, whatever took place in that country, that was a major turn, because the government got behind it. They ended up having a very organized program that allowed the inoculations to be done on a systematic way. We needed the same thing to happen in Afghanistan for it to really go. But when you see the chart and you see it going from 430 something, I think it was, to 130, and then to 70, and then to 37, and this year I think it's actually 13, Cindy. We are getting to zero, but that particular year when Pakistan got on board was a very big turning point.
Yeah, and then Bert's comment reminded me something. We talk about peace and conflict resolution. One of the significant things about that is that as